In this video, I'm going to give you 7 tips that are going to help you process, manage, and deal with change in the workplace. This is Productivity Ace. Let's get it done. One of the most difficult things to deal with in your career is that of change. Change is like the unannounced party guest that kicks the door in and comes in and steals all the beer. It can come crashing into your life with no warning at all. Change is often right at the top of most people's list of all things terrifying. It can be exhilarating, scary, frightening, energizing, but it's always on the horizon and it can be on you before you know it. That's certainly true of working at my firm and of today's complicated lifestyle. Over the last few years, I've tried to get a lot better at understanding, dealing with, and managing changing situations. Tip number 1, accept it and see the good. This is the most important of all. Acceptance. Accept change. Change is going to happen, and often there's nothing you can do to stop it. Once you accept that change is happening, it allows you to build a mindset to get the most out of the changing situation and adapt. Often not accepting can just be delaying the inevitable, and in that time you'll have wasted energy and also time to make a difference. So see the change coming, accept it's going to happen, and work out a way that you can make the best of it. Tip number 2 is don't be scared. Change is like a dark spectre. It comes over the horizon in a shadowy shape without form, lacking detail and clarity. It can be very, very disturbing. But it's important to realise that change is, on the whole, most of the time, good. After all, it's taken us from living in caves to watching Netflix. So when you see that dark spectre of change at your workplace coming over the horizon, maybe it's a new person that's joined the organisation, maybe it's a big org change, maybe it's a technology shift, maybe it's a complete change in the way your organisation does business. Well, it's important to realise that that's normally taking you forward, and the chances are you'll be moving on to a better situation than you're in now. So don't be scared, embrace the change, prepare yourself, and work out a plan on how you're going to deal with it. Tip number 3, realise that it's going to be some work. Dealing with change doesn't come for free, and it's important to realise you're going to have to put the hard yards in. Whether that's changing the way you work, changing your processes, changing your team structure, or completely changing your mindset to deal with it, it's going to take some effort. Adapting to changing situations doesn't come for free. If it did, it would be really easy. Personally, I like to try and train myself and understand change and the psychology of change to make myself able to better deal with change when it hits me. I've linked to some great books about change in the description. Do check them out. Just like athletes train for big sporting events, I find it's very helpful to continuously train my mind to deal with change, to understand change, to understand the psychology of change, and fill my brain with information about how change works and how it affects you. The more information you have, the better you can deal with the situation. Tip number 4 for dealing with change. Do it quickly. Don't hesitate. When change first arrives, it's normally quite slow and lacking detail, but it can accelerate very fast and be on you before you know it. The longer you wait, the longer you procrastinate, the harder it's going to be to deal with the change, which is inevitable. So spot the change, work out a way to deal with it, and embrace it and get stuck straight in. The faster you act, the easier the situation will be. And if that change affects your team and affects your wider team dynamic, make sure that all of your team members are on the same mindset, embracing the change, doing their best to deal with it, to come up to speed and make the most of it. That way your whole team will be in a much better position to be able to deal with the inevitable. Before I go into the rest of the tips, if this is your first time here and you want to be a better leader, manager, and get more stuff done at work, then do consider subscribing and hit that little bell notification so you don't miss anything. Tip number 5 is collaboration. It's unlikely that the change in your organisation will just be affecting you. It's probably going to be affecting many people in the organisation, and a lot of those will be worried about it as well. A really great tip is to collaborate with these people. Reach out, find the people that are worried about change, work together to build frameworks to deal with it, embrace it, and get the most out of it. You'll also spot people who are dealing with the change in an incredibly good way or a very effective way. You can learn a lot from them. They can bring you along on their journey, and you can all work together to make things easier. Tip number 6, practice. The more you can practice putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, the better you'll be at dealing with change. Just like athletes and sports people need to constantly practice and refine that muscle memory, you need to do the same with change as well. The more you put yourself in the situation of change, the better you'll be at dealing with it. You'll build up that inherent framework that will allow you to respond to and deal with change whenever it arrives. And if you're feeling brave and want to practice, then initiate some change in your life. Try something new, develop new hobbies, develop new skills, push yourself out of your comfort zone on a regular basis. The more you do it, you'll find it'll become second nature. That could be a physical challenge, it could be a new hobby, it could be presenting at a conference or doing some public speaking, or setting up a forum or a group at work to put yourself right in the spotlight, to get yourself some real attention and to make yourself feel as uncomfortable as possible. Creating those situations where you build up a muscle memory for dealing with change can make life an awful lot easier when the change comes. And tip number 7, look to help others. There's going to be many people dealing with the same change as you. Make sure you reach out and help people. The more you can be seen as somebody who can facilitate change, can help the organization deal with change rather than somebody who resists against it, the better that will be for your reputation in your organization. Often this change is decided at a very senior management level, and the last thing senior management want is people to be putting up a fight and resisting. They would love it if people just embraced change and made their life easy by making things happen. So the more you can act as a facilitator for that change, and the better reputation you'll have in your organization. So here's what I want you to do now. Let me know in the comments if you've got any changing situations at work that you might be worried about. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me if you're going to put any of these tips into practice, or if you've got any other tips for dealing with change that I've missed. That's it for this one on Productivity Ace. We'll be back soon. Thanks.